Hi everyone, welcome to my live today. My name is Belinda. If you're new here, AfroGirl Diaries is all about academia, career, and lifestyle content. So today's video is just going to be addressing all of the comments, all of the questions that you have been raising in my ACCA series. Just thought to make it alive in case any of you would like to join in and ask your questions live, and also just to encourage this channel of communication. I've been doing some lives now. This is my third live, so bear with me if there are any technical difficulties, but I just enjoyed the previous lives and thought might as well be doing more lives. Also, it's more time efficient. I'm preparing for a June exam. Any of you who are doing any ACCA exams, you know how it usually is when it's closer, much closer to the time. So it's a lot of intense revision, a lot of study. So you know what? Let's do the most time efficient and most engaging form of communication for that. So I will go through the comments, the questions using my phone just on YouTube, address a lot of the questions. And if you do have any questions that you'd like to cover during this live as well, please put them in the live chat and I'll address them as we go along. Also, let me know how you're getting on with your weekend. If you're a student as well as me and you have an exam coming up next month, tell me how it's going. Let's engage, let's chat and see how we can help each other. So I got a lot of questions regarding how long it takes to become an ACCA member. So I'm assuming the person who asked this wanted to know how long will it take to actually become chartered, or rather finally qualify, right? Because that's the end goal for everyone who is doing the ACCA. Also, please let me know if you can't hear me. Of course, I can only know once you post in the comment section if you can hear me well, if everything is okay and we can proceed. If not, at least I can try and resolve that before we proceed on with the live. So how long does it take to become an ACCA member? This really depends on your current circumstances. So for me, this might be a good time to introduce where I am in my ACCA journey. I've done a whole ACCA series which does cover my journey, but I'll just summarize a bit of it now. So I'm currently doing my optional papers in the strategic professional level. So I'm literally doing my last two. I'm actually preparing for the advanced performance management, which I'm doing next month. So it's taken me around 5 years to get here. And the reason why it's taken me that long, well, I guess because audit firms tend to make their students become qualified in 3 years, is because I've been doing it at my own pace. So I have a full-time job. It's not really required for the job that I'm doing now. So I'm just doing it at my own pace. For other people, it could be that you've registered for ACCA because it's what your employer wants you to do. Of course, there is external pressure there to get qualified. And in that case, you probably would do more exams as you go along. When I started out, I used to do around 3 papers during each session because the initial papers are very, very light compared to how they get when you get to strategic professional. So basically, at that time, I could do 3 papers at once. I was also in uni in my final year for engineering. So at that time, let's just say I was more focused on studying and I could get a lot through. I could get through a lot of the papers compared to right now. So it really depends on what your goals are. Is it really required for your current job? If it is, of course, get through as many as you can as quickly as you can. And also just your own motivation. Sometimes you just don't feel motivated to do an exam in the next session. And it's all down to you. It's all to do with self-study. When it's self-study, it's down to your own pace and your commitment. But typically it takes around 3 years to complete the theoretical part of it if you're really doing a lot of papers per session. I don't think you're advised to do more than 3 papers in one sitting because that would just be too much. I'm not too sure if it's a limitation by ACCA, it's just not recommended. But definitely when you're starting off, you would be able to do more papers. And as you progress along, you'll realize how heavy the papers get. And you probably want to do what you can manage, especially if you're balancing it with your work. Moving on to the next question. So the next person asked costs and fees related to ACCA. So I actually loaded the page on the ACCA page right before this live when I was looking at this question. Again, it depends on what location you're in. Of course, I doubt it would be significantly different, but it really does depend on your location, what stage you're at in your ACCA journey. So are you registering? Are you a new student? Are you doing the applied knowledge level, applied skills level, or are you doing the strategic professional? Of course, as you progress through the different stages, it gets more and more expensive. But I'll actually share my screen just to show you the different costs. So hopefully you can see my screen now. And basically, if you're in the beginning of, this is the ACCA website, as you can see. So if you're in the beginning of your journey, you want to register. I have loaded the UK fees because that's where I'm based. But of course, you will check on the website depending on where you're located currently. But the website, if you just literally go to the fees and charges section, it does list down all the different prices for the different activities you're doing related to ACCA. So if you're registering for the first time, you'll pay around £89. If you dropped off, you didn't keep up with your membership. This is something, by the way, I should explain. So for you to start your ACCA journey, you need to register as a student, and that would cost you around £89. And then as you go along, you register for the different exams. You can't do an exam if you're not an ACCA student, registered member. This is, of course, if you're doing self-study. If you're going through a vendor, a study vendor, they will probably manage this process for you. But either way, you will still need to be a registered student and keep up with your membership. For you to continue doing the different exams, you have to keep up with your membership. So that's why if you take too long, like I have been doing, I have been slacking a little bit in the advanced levels because it's a lot, guys. Like you will see as you progress through, you will see how heavy the papers get, and you probably want to do just one every 6 months, which in the end lengthens your journey. So as you can see here, if you make it, if you stay too long, you'll keep paying your annual subscription fee, which you can see is much higher than even the registration fee, and it will end up being a very expensive affair. So registration is around £89. And then if you have exemptions, you've maybe studied accounting or you've done MBA, you've basically done something that would make you exempt. You can check if you're exempt on the ACCA website. You can check your qualification against that or your degree. It's also part of the registration process. They'll ask you what is your education background? And if you do have anything that you think would be relevant for the ACCA, which will make you exempt from different exams, definitely list it out, and it's usually reviewed by their staff, and they'll issue you an exemption. But those exemptions are not free. As you can see, they still cost. In fact, I think they cost the same as the exam. Let me see. Probably not. I think they're just a bit cheaper. But you can see, for example, applied knowledge, it's £98 for each paper. So applied knowledge has usually around 3 papers. I'm classing it based on F1 to F3. Of course, the papers have now been renamed, but when I did it, it was F1 to F3. So you can see it's £98 for the exemptions. But for the exams, the applied knowledge papers are usually much cheaper. Applied skills gets more expensive. Strategic professional, guys, it is expensive. Let me just show you. So strategic professional, look at that cost. 210, and that's just the early entry. So imagine if you're paying the late entry, it increases by another 100 or around £150. So if you know that, especially if you're self-studying, if you know that you're working towards December exam, for example, especially at this level, you need to plan when you'll do the exam because they're very heavy. You need to plan time to revise. You need to plan time to actually go through the material, go through any question handbooks, because you can't go in just reading the theory. You need to practice because you don't have the luxury of a lecturer there putting everything into context, giving you maybe some revision questions. All this is down to you and your understanding. So you need thorough revision. Trust me, you will fail strategic professional level papers if you don't revise. So you need to plan the exam early. And in that case, you'll probably be able to do early entry. As you can see, that can save you around £150. So if you can, plan early, maybe plan it 3 months, minimum 3 months in advance of the exam for strategic professional. Maybe for the other initial papers, you can maybe do them in 6 weeks, register for the exam in 6 weeks. But if you're doing strategic professional, I'd recommend minimum 3 months before the exam you started revising. So probably at this point, you'd be looking at the September exams and not the June if you're considering this. Yeah. So back to the different questions. I'll go to the next one. Hopefully that covered it in detail, because there are a lot of people who asked about how much it costs, and I don't think I've spoken about it before. So the next question was to do with work experience. What work experience do I need to become chartered? In fact, someone else then asked, do you need to work in finance while studying to qualify? So you do want to work in something related to accounting. So it could be either you're in audit, or you're in finance, you're in economics, or you're even in consulting, but more towards like helping a client with, their financial processes, something along those lines, because that's where you'd be able to pick up the most relevant skills. So there's something called practical experience requirements, PER, and there are PER objectives. So there are 5 essential and 4 technical that you need to achieve to get the practical experience requirement. So if you're like me and you work for an approved employer, you can go through the exemption route. And this doesn't mean that you still don't need the work experience. It's just less paperwork. I think I've mentioned it in a previous video. It's less paperwork, but you still need to demonstrate. So probably you'd get a supervisor from your organization who can sign off your experience. So you don't need to log each activity trying to demonstrate how you achieved each of them. It's down to your supervisor, who needs to be chartered, to literally sign off that they believe you have achieved each of the objectives. So it's less paperwork compared to somebody else who needs to demonstrate how they've achieved each objective and literally log the experience on the ACCA portal. In fact, I can actually find the different practical experience requirements. Search that quickly and show you what I mean by the 5 essential and the 4 technical. In terms of length of period, you need minimum 3 years experience, so 36 months is what you need to get the full chartered status. Yes, so let me share my screen now and I'll show you what the difference. So all this information is on the ACCA website. If you have any question related to ACCA, honestly, your first port of call should be the ACCA website. So I'll just share my screen now and show you. So as you can see now, you need to complete 5 essential objectives and choose 4 from the 17 that are available. So there are things like ethics and professionalism, stakeholder relationship management, strategy, governance, risk and control, leadership and management. So that's why the job that you're doing, or the place where you can get this experience, needs to be something where you can actually demonstrate these objectives. There's no limitation on what type of work, but you don't want to be aligned to some sort of financial, type of work. It doesn't need to be fully accounting, but for some of the technical objectives, you might need to be in an accounting role. So even if you can do it for a few months, but it depends on what you choose. So I'm in more of a consulting, business consulting type of role. So I'm actually in technology consulting, but because a lot of the financial controls are automated, we're able to get involved in a lot of advising the clients on their financial processes. So I'm able to demonstrate some of these, for example, audit and assurance, if you've been involved in any engagements. So I've been involved in financial audits as an IT specialist. I'm able to demonstrate 18, 19, and 20. So if you're in audit, you're in an audit firm, of course, 18, 19, and 20 would be one of the key ones that you can demonstrate. I'm also in consultancy, so I'd probably be able to demonstrate number 21. But as you can see, you can also be in a different type of consulting role and be able to demonstrate project planning, monitoring performance, budgeting, such things. So you can play around, see which one your job fits in most. But if you realize that the current job that you're doing doesn't enable you to fulfill any of the technical and essential performance objectives, then you probably need to look into doing, even if it's unpaid work somewhere else, just to help you get chartered, especially if you're still a student, then do it. Okay, perfect. So I'll move on to the next question. So this person said that they're exempt from applied knowledge and business law due to doing a Bachelor of Commerce. What's the best order you recommend for the applied skills papers? So it's advisable for you to literally do it sequentially based on level. So not that you have to start with F1, F2, F3, but then you'll realize a lot of the ACCA papers build on each other. They build on previous knowledge. So I wouldn't advise you to do applied skills before you've done applied knowledge level papers. I don't even think you can register for that. But within a certain level, let's say you're in applied skills level, and there is, of course, performance management, there is financial management, there are different papers, around 6 papers that you can do at that level. There isn't really limitation on how you want to arrange the papers. You probably want to do them based on, or combine them based on what you like or what things that are related. So there is, I think, one for business reporting, financial reporting. So I'd probably want to do financial reporting, which with something else, there's tax also. So there are different papers you can do, no limitation on how you want to arrange them, but I would advise that you do them sequentially. That's just my preference. So I've done them sequentially and combined them based on what I think is hard for me and what is easy. So if something is hard, I'll do it on its own. If something is not hard, I'll combine it probably with another light paper. So hopefully that answers your question. Another person asks, is self-studying only using textbooks and not pre-recorded lectures? Self-studying is basically you driving the whole process, the learning process. So I use textbooks, as you've seen, I have textbooks, or you can also use pre-recorded lectures. So as long as you don't have an external tuition provider, a lecturer who's guiding you through the process, then it really depends. That would still be considered self-studying. Okay, moving on. Is it possible to study and pass ACCA Advanced Audit and Assurance in 2 months? Exam is on 7th June. Apologies, I'm answering this question in May, so probably too late for you, but it depends on your circumstances. So I would say yes, because it's still the applied skills level. It's not the strategic professional. If it was strategic professional, I'd say no, not possible. But if it's at audit and assurance, that applied skills level, I think you can, as long as you really need to put in the time. Hopefully you're a student, you're not working and balancing study and work. So at that point, maybe it would be hard for you, but you need to put in the work. Maybe spend 1 month going through the material, spend the second month going through questions, and I think you can do it. Another person asked, how many exams can you do at once? I think, don't quote me on this, but I think you can do only a maximum of 3 per session. I would recommend you probably do more papers towards the beginning of your journey where the papers are a bit more light. But as things get more advanced, do 2 at most. You don't want to, overwhelm yourself too much. But if you do have time, if you're full-time, you don't really have anything you're doing during the day, you're just studying towards your ACCA, that's your full-time job, you're a full-time student, then yeah, you can do 3. Moving on, when self-studying, how do you register for an exam? So this one I will demonstrate because I do this a lot and I've gotten this question. I thought I answered it last time, but I think it's something that would be useful to share with you how I actually do it. when you're self-studying. Let me know when you can see my screen. I think you should be able to see it now. So I've logged into my ACCA website portal. So everyone, it's a self-service portal. Everyone gets it when you register as an ACCA student. You get your login credentials once you've successfully registered. So you just go to book an exam. And all you need to do is just specify location, specify what exam you want to do. So you can see I have an exam in June, Advanced Performance Management, and that's it. It's literally a very straightforward process. Just go here, add an exam, and it allows you to choose what exams you want. And that's literally it. It's all on the portal. You don't need to get in touch with anyone. You don't need to call anyone, email anyone. It's all through the My ACCA portal. Yeah, and lastly, tips for tackling multiple choice questions in F8. I would probably need to do subsequent videos covering tips for each level of paper, but for now, just refer you to my the video that I did with Dr. Lydia, where we talk about top tips on how to pass exams, just general tips. But multiple choice questions, maybe just a quick recommendation, make sure you don't leave any blanks. There's no negative marking in ACCA, so leaving a blank is a sure way to reduce your marks. You might as well just respond to all the questions. And time tends to be the main issue. We tend to focus on section B, which requires you to, write out the different answers. So it's not multiple choice. But you forget that half of the marks are in part A as well. So you might want to do a lot more practice papers so that you get used to completing the paper on time. But you can see that video. I'll link that video in the description section, where you can see top tips and tricks to, passing the ACCA, regardless of which paper it is. Yeah, I think the others have answered them. Someone else asked, do you need 36 months to become chartered? I just answered that. Yes, you do. You need 36 months minimum. Is it possible to combine studying for ACCA and MBA in finance? Yeah, you can, but they're quite related. So you might want to complete one before starting the other. Maybe if you haven't started ACCA, I would do the MBA in finance first, because that would enable you to get a lot of exemptions. Maybe you can check with your uni if by being ACCA qualified, you get exemptions. The two are quite related. So I think you should be able to get exemptions from the other one. How long does it take me to do each paper? Of course, that depends on how long the exam paper is, but I think you mean how long it takes to prepare for each paper. And this is down to your circumstances, honestly. If you're balancing work and study, it's going to take you longer. If you're a full-time student, shorter time. Where can I get the ACCA syllabus? You can get it from the ACCA website. As I've just shown you, I've demonstrated a few examples. Everything is literally on the ACCA website. But yeah, that's it for today. I will now proceed on to study for my exam. Wishing you all the best if you're studying for any exams in June. Let's do this. You can accomplish it, sticking to it, committing to it, and in the end, you'll become chartered. That's all it takes, commitment and perseverance. Because trust me, even if you flop any papers, as long as you commit to doing it again and just progressing through, you will become chartered. Let's all become chartered together. Until next time, let me know any questions, any suggestions, any specific questions you have. I'll do another Q&A at a future date. And also don't forget to buy some merch. As you can see, I'm actually wearing one. I'll link in the description box where you can purchase some merch and support. Subscribe. Bye.